All right. I'm gonna give this a second to make sure everything's caught up, and it looks like we're pretty good. I'm gonna take a little sip of water, and then I'm gonna go through what I think is gonna be really exciting for you, because I think people really like these kind of like live walkthroughs on real directory sites making real legitimate money. So today, so last week, was it last week? Last week or 2 weeks ago, I talked about a site that was valued at I think $1.1 billion um, in as of 2022. Now, and that was A Place for Mom. I had a lot of fun diving in. I think a lot of people really liked watching that. Now, I want to talk about a place that, as of 2024, the last year that we have public data for, made $1.19 billion in revenue. Now, this is a directory site. I want you to, if you can, I would like you to guess which directory site I'm talking about. It's one you've heard of, one you've probably seen commercials for. It may be close to the top of your list for what you'd expect. If you're gonna just like look at all the directory sites that you've heard about, all the ones you know about, it may be at the top of your list for what you'd expect might make over $1 billion per year. But in any case, it's still shocking to me that's where a directory site is. And also, so I'm going to go ahead and show you everything from basically how it got started through how it makes money and then lessons that you can learn, because I don't want this to be just like a really cool deep dive where we go in and we look at everything, but then there's nothing for you. So without further ado, I'm going to share that part of my screen. So, and I can never figure out a good place to keep my head there. So I'm going to shrink that a little bit, and hopefully that won't intrude on the titles and the page and everything. And shout it out in the comments if there's any, like, if you notice that you can't see something because of where my face is. I might angle that a little bit differently. So let's go ahead and get into it. It's Angie.com, which used to be Angie's List. In 2021, I guess they changed over, and it was a business decision, branding decision, because they wanted to say we're more than just a list. But this is a directory site at its heart and from its birth. So I'm gonna angle this camera slightly. Let's see if we can do that. Ugh. No. All right. Well, you can't see my arms, but I'm moving them every once in a while. So there you go. Let's do one more thing. Change this. There we go. And my screen went away. That's always fun. All right, there we go. Okay, sorry about that. Wanted to adjust something. So anyway, so Angie.com, formerly Angie's List. Let's go ahead and just go through a little bit of the brief history. Now the like history notes I grabbed just from, Google searches and all that stuff. Nothing too exciting. We're gonna get into the real like meat of it in just a second here. But basically right now, on Angie.com, Angie's List, I'll probably refer to it as both interchangeably. There are over 200,000 active service professionals. Now that's across a bunch of different categories, which we're going to look at in a second. And like I said, the transformation from the name Angie's List in 2021 at some point to what it is now, Angie.com, was kind of like that whole progression of what they really do, because it's so much more than just being a directory site with listings, obviously. And a lot of this goes into how they make their money. So I'm going to show you that in just a minute here. I don't know what IAC is. I think that's just the parent company. And so the former parent company. So now it's fully independent. And basically, this is kind of like the key point this is the key point that I want you to keep in mind. So for a directory, you can think of a bunch of different things. And the way that I boil a directory down is it is a list of resources, or basically a list of possible solutions to someone's problem. Now, they might be looking for a mechanic, So it's a list of different auto shops that they can then go to, potentially go to solve that problem. It might be, any other kind of local business. It could be a restaurant. So it could be anything in your local directory would count. So that's kind of how I view it. And you're basically, the directory site is sitting in between someone looking for a solution and that solution. And as far as I can think of, that solution is some business. So that's the intersection. That's where you are. So basically the question here, how does a directory hit 10 figures? You need to move from being in just information to really owning the whole transaction. So really like taking charge of that business aspect. So looking at Angie's List, if you come onto the webpage, first off, it's very clean. And I want you to just kind of notice that a lot of white space. There's a lot of good information on here, but it's not overwhelming. So you look at the top and you see that the navigation is very, very interestingly laid out, because they have interior, and you can click into that, and then you have all of your basically interior home services. So essentially Angie's List, or like I said, Angie's List, it's basically for home services in a broad sense of the word. So rather than being, so it's very similar to a local directory in a lot of ways, in that there are a lot of service niches there, but it's different in that it's not going to include like restaurants or something in a local area that people might go to, so much as professions where people might come to your house and repair it, or come to your apartment and repair it. So it's divided between interior, exterior, lawn and garden, and then more, which is kind of, I think the more category is probably worth looking at really heavily here, because a lot of these things are probably really, really low competition in search. And a lot of these people actually make a lot of really good money. So like locksmiths, junk hauling, moving companies, pest control, pressure washing. I think these are probably underserved and underutilized. I don't think a lot of people put these categories in their directory. So I would be aware of that. That's just kind of like a little side note. And then they go to like articles and advice. If you click into view all, and I think view all on all of them goes to the same place, look at all the different categories. So they get really granular. Now they do this for SEO purposes, I'm sure, as well as, they've just built up this entire site since 1995, or since the early 2000s. I forget when the site itself started. So you're not going to have all of this. You don't need all of this. You don't need 20-yard dumpster rental services. But you might want to bear in mind that just thinking of the common categories that everyone else puts in a local directory, or if you're making an industry directory, which I've shown videos on how to do that with Go High Level and Smart Directory before, or just generally before, you might want to consider one of those industries that, actually really people pay a lot of money for. And so they have, they would be a great client or customer for you, but are not often in the local directories, or may not even have like an industry directory in your area or nationwide. So keep that in mind. And this is why we do these breakdowns, basically so I can show you, you're probably not going to make $1.19 billion. I'm not going to lie. But I can show you things that you can take away from it, because they've done all the expensive testing. They've kind of figured out what works and what doesn't. So let's go ahead and hop back over here. So started in 1995 with a $50,000 seed and of investment, and then 22-year-old founder who basically was doing like door-to-door sales for a kind of like club with paid membership. So I don't know exactly what this is, but I'm thinking this is probably like one of those like a coupon book type of thing, but maybe a little fancier on that. I didn't dive too hard in here. But basically, the person was already in the industry of trying to connect residents with businesses. They didn't take money from pros early on, so they charged users, so they charged the consumers in order to make their money, as opposed to charging the professionals, and that changed. And I think you'll find that as well, basically, and I think that's everyone's model at this point, is pretty much you charge the people who stand to make money. And that's really, rather than being a subscription model for like a consumer to get access to a list, it's the opposite. So they built a high trust brand and a high risk niche, again, because all of these services are really expensive. If you're getting a contractor, if you're getting plumbing in, electrical, you don't, as a homeowner, generally know who's good. and you don't really have a consistent, clear way to figure that out. So the directory is serving that purpose of really bridging that gap if it can be a trusted resource. So this is paramount to their whole brand and why, I bet there were probably dozens of other competitors along the way, but why Angie.com, formerly Angie's List, has done so well. So again, like these are all things to keep in mind. I don't want you to think, oh, I need to change my entire business model and I need to put all the same things in place from day one. I just want this in your mind while you're thinking of your directory business, how it relates, its overall goals, and then everything that you do around it, what's going to make that meaningful and valuable for the person who's trying to solve a problem, for that consumer that you sit between when it's the consumer versus the professional. So that resident, if it's a residential service, etc. Okay, so here's their revenue mix, the really exciting, interesting part. So they do have the availability. So let's go ahead and click in. So they have pros actually pay for their visibility, for higher visibility in search results. They also pay for direct contact info, so leads of homeowners who are looking for their services. There's a pre-priced model where Angie actually sets the price, collects the money, and then pays the pro a flat fee. And basically, because they have such leverage when it comes to marketing and getting business, they can do this, and it's basically referral business. So if you want to think of it that way, Angie is like, well, basically we're going to send you business, and you don't have to worry about marketing. And I know there are plenty of pros who really don't worry about marketing. For this reason, they kind of they pay the fees and they're willing to take that hit in margins because it's consistent work for them and they don't have to worry about some of the overhead, not just cost, but like time, frustration, concerns, all that stuff. And then membership fees. So, basic, I think this is on the consumer side where Angie Key members pay for discounts and protection. So like if you hire a contractor who they do a bad job or something like that, then you have some way to get that money back, which again is like that's a good way to collect money on the consumer side because you're utilizing that fear that they use to emphasize why it's so important that all these businesses are trusted that Angie lists. That makes sense. Angie's List, Angie Lists. But also they're using that kind of concern to alleviate those fears by providing a guarantee. So they're really attacking that from a couple different angles there. So let's just click into some of this because I just talked a bunch. So let's actually look at one of these fun ones. I say fun, but I'm going to go into like junk hauling. So just because it's less common. So this is taking roughly my zip code, my area. And so you can see these top listings, and let's click in. Some of this is me just doing it on the fly, by the way, or actually pretty much all of this. So I'm going to look for ones that I think are going to be good to click into. This only has 3 years of experience, but it's at the top of the list, which is really interesting. Recommended by 100% of Angie customers. Only 4 ratings, so not a ton of ratings, which is really, it could be because I'm picking junk hauling. That might not be that popular a category, but it could also signify that ratings and reviews on your site may not be as critical, given how big Angie is. If anyone's going to be able to collect them, it should be them. But let's see. Really, really basic. Looks like keywords there and basic description. And click to read more, but it's just one paragraph. I'm not clicking to a couple others. We're just going to see if all the listings look the same. So, I mean, really, you can see here a handful of reviews, some FAQs, and that's something that's, I think, really helpful. If you have businesses, when you reach out to them, you suggest that they put FAQs in their description. So I'm talking about with Smart Directory AI or your directory site. I'll show you. Let me go ahead and pull my site up now. And then, you know what I'm going to do? We'll do Hawaii Thrive because they actually have more reviews on there. I'm going to show you the similarities in layout, and you'll see it's actually not too distinct when it comes to what the listing looks like. So for a directory site, I'm going to go to, we've been filling out ours more and more. I want to go to, what was I looking at earlier? Let's go to dining and just do a restaurant here, because I'm not sure that I've got too many services in here filled out yet. Yeah, I mean, we can go into vertical solutions. That's the most, yeah, I didn't fill out the business description yet. So let's just go into, I'll just pick a cafe, because these I know I've been filling out. So you can see, like, we put a lot more in our description, and we're really aiming to provide a lot more information, but this is all free form, so you can put whatever you want in here. So if you were doing something on your directory where you're putting listings in, all you need to take from Angie, because again, they've spent money to figure this out, is maybe you just do an about us, business highlights, key aspects that people might want to know, such as if they speak Spanish, veteran owned and operated, sometimes woman owned, minority owned. Those are all things that people are going to sometimes really want to support those businesses. Services they offer, amenities are not a big thing for junk hauling, but free estimates, sure. But you could put all this information in just a free form field like we have, and then you're good to go. The reviews, I think Hawaii Thrive has some businesses with reviews. So let's see if we can, yeah, I mean, again, like this is essentially the same kind of information. And I think that's what I want to stress, because I think a lot of people worry too much about making their directory site have all the information in the world that anyone could ever want about this business and making it the perfect listing. And in reality, I mean, you can see the Hawaii Thrive one it's got a lot more than mine does, and it's got all the socials listed. This is claims, so that's part of the reason why. And it's got some reviews filled out, our team, so it's got a lot more to it. All those capabilities are on mine as well. I just haven't put that in, but this is certainly plenty of listing enough to give a business a good edge. And then you look at something like what's on Angie.com, and there's nothing crazy here. So this is entirely in the realm of possibility for you to do this much. That's all I'm stressing here. If you earn $1.19 billion in the next year or two, let me know and we'll attribute it to this video. I don't think you're going to get there, but I just don't want this to be daunting to you. When you look at $1 billion a year business and you start breaking it down, you see what you can do and how the potential is there for you to make a couple $100,000 a year, $100,000 a year, $50,000 a year, whatever it is, whatever that number that needs to get you just motivated to take some action, the potential's there. So let's go to another business. Let's see if there's something more. Gomez Landscaping. Yeah, this looks like all like keywords and everything, which like cool. You can certainly have a section like that, but yeah, I mean, their about us is really short. It has a little bit more information, 19 years of experience, veteran-owned emergency services. They speak Spanish. Services we offer. There's not a lot to these. Now, they do have some pictures of recent projects, so like having a gallery, which you can do with Smart Directory, you can do on your own. Definitely worth doing. Pictures are always going to say more, pictures and reviews. But pictures, they can upload the picture, you can upload the pictures. That's going to be really good for the business, and giving professionals a place to do that, where people have a chance of finding their business where they otherwise wouldn't have found it, because it's buried in search or it's buried in competitors, they don't have the budget for ads or whatever. That can be really valuable to them. And they're more willing, looks like these are slow to load, but they're going to be more willing to pay for a sure thing than they are to, say, hire a whole team to come in and manage their entire social media presence from scratch and put them all on staff. They'll be more willing to work with an agency or someone who they know can accomplish this because they've seen results. And so that's part of what you want to do with a directory. And that's, if you've seen any of my videos, you've heard me say that before. But that's not all that Angie does. So we showed basically like the listings there. Let's talk about more of the leads. And the Angie ads, let me check another category because maybe that wasn't as competitive a category. Let's do roofing. I know that's competitive. I want to see if there are any ads that we can obviously tell. Yeah, I mean, I would say that it's definitely not clear to me which ones might be paying to be sponsored or if they're all paying. Approved Pro to me implies something, but I don't know what yet. And yeah, I mean, this is interesting. So you can even see that with Angie, and this is, I think, getting, yeah, this is for Austin, Texas. So this is not like a tiny area. But even most of the listings here aren't filled out. So the pros that fill them out probably do a lot better. Sorry, I'm thirsty. However, what you can see is that just having this information gives Angie credibility that they've got, yeah, they've got a lot more. This is clearly not filled out. They've got a lot more options for you as the consumer to find some businesses and get some details than if you're just doing like a Google search and you're not really sure what you want. Now, the benefit comes from, and I think the request quote, I'm going to go through this. I haven't gone through this one yet. So let's go ahead and just see if it takes me to, yeah, I can select one. So if it takes me to a place where it'll actually ask me which businesses I want to share my information with, then I'm going to stop. But you can see again, and this is something that we did on A Place for Mom. Was it A Place for? Yeah, I think A Place for Mom when I showed it the other week. And then I think Care.com, which I also showed. So if you can go and say, basically, once you start interacting with it, they have you fill out a little bit of information. And this is what they're using to sell leads and get referrals. So if I say home and I say water leak and all that, it looks like their form is a little broken, but and they're a $1 billion company or $1 billion+ company. They're making $1 billion and their form is broken. We're just gonna click next. Let's click next. We're just gonna click next through here, and then I haven't put in my information yet, so no one's gonna get this. Yeah, so now it wants me to give my address and everything. I'm gonna just, I don't know if it'll allow me to just do like a dummy address. Yeah, I hope no one lives in that place. 123 Main Street. Yeah, so I'm not gonna go through the rest of this. But basically here's when I give the information where a pro would actually be able to send me a quote. So I've used this before, and I think I got like 3 text messages immediately after filling this out from different pros, and then I think like a fourth 2 hours later, and I was like, you know, you snooze, you lose. So that's one of the things that they're able to do really well is get pros an immediate message that someone's interested, and then if the pro responds right away, then they have a much higher likelihood of getting the business. I myself have always been told, get 3 quotes. So the fourth person probably not going to have the chance to quote me, unless, you know, I really don't like the first 3 quotes or something. So that actually brings me into part of what's an opportunity for you. So obviously anything you can do around getting leads and referrals and basically being that bridge between the consumer and the service technician or the business, that's going to be an opportunity for revenue. The other thing is what I just mentioned there, helping people get that quick response to a lead. And when someone's interacting with their site, that's another opportunity. And so we highlight AI agents for that. But also, you know, any other places where, let's say, their phone lines are busy, and so a phone call comes in, but because it's busy and doesn't get answered, you know, they have no idea if they're losing business or what's going on, but that's an opportunity lost, you know, if that person's just going down the list calling another business. So that's part of the reason why we highlight AI agents as a really, really good opportunity. And a lot of people who are not tech savvy, don't have a tech background, you're probably familiar with AI broadly at this point in ChatGPT, and you may have used some of the tools, but hearing about, you know, like, how am I going to sell AI agents to these businesses? You know, how's that going to be something that I can even implement? A lot of those questions kind of spring to mind. And that's part of the reason why we actually do a lot of training around, and I always get the name kind of swapped around, but AI Smart Launch Lab. There's free training on that. The link's in the description. I highly recommend if you're running a directory business and if you're trying to be more active rather than kind of like do the passive thing where you wait to acquire SEO traffic over time, and you're trying to be more active in order to get money, then we recommend using the directory as a tool to put listings in, reach out automatically through email to those businesses, say, like tell them, I made you a directory listing. Can you confirm that the details are correct? Like have them confirm their name, address, phone number, and all that stuff, and then encourage them to claim the listing. You can start that conversation where you ask what you're doing for marketing, or you provide, provided that you've already kind of vetted which businesses you're putting on there. And let's say that none of them have AI agents, then you can have follow-ups that say, hey, we've got an AI agent that we can put on your website that can help with missed calls. It can answer the phone if it rings, 4 times and isn't picked up, or it can answer the phone after hours. And so you can really increase that, what's called speed to lead, or at least what I've heard called speed to lead. I don't know if that's commonly thrown around anymore. You can really increase that response rate to someone who's interested when they're interested. And when you start selling services like that and you're tying it to something that they're very well aware of, because as we just showed with Angie, I guess I didn't really show it. I walked through the form, but then I mentioned just my own anecdote of using it in the past. When someone is actively searching for something and your business immediately responds, offering to help them through that process or provide a quote or whatever, you're much more likely to get the business. You simply are. It's the same with law firms. It's the same with plumbers. It's the same with electricians, locksmiths, whoever it is across the board. They know that. Small business owners know that. So if you are putting them in the directory, you're starting that conversation just broadly about their site and how you're creating this directory to connect local businesses with consumers, then this gives you an opportunity to also mention AI agents as a way to help them respond more quickly to potential customers who are reaching out. So I just want to highlight that. That was a little bit of a diatribe, but that's something that we focus on so much, and it was an opportunity to bring it in, and I think that's really critical. If you're trying to make money from your directory, it helps to sell that as a service. If you're not sure of what to do or how to do it, click the link in the description, the free training. I think the way we kind of frame it is go from 0 to a deployable business for selling AI agents in 72 hours. So it's totally worth checking out. Like I said, it's free, so you don't have to, if you don't like it, you don't like it. But let's go ahead and dig into some of this other stuff. So membership fees, I want to kind of go to that. The pre-priced model, I don't have any good way to show that. So there's not a whole lot that I can do to demonstrate that, but it's basically what I described before. So Angie will set a price, and I think they allow, if I remember correctly, I think they allow you as the consumer to give a range that you're looking in, but don't quote me on that one. That one I might be wrong with. And then I think you need to bear with me for a second. My live stream cut out because I need more memory. So let's go ahead and take care of something quickly. I also started really late and I apologize. So give me 1 second here, because I believe if I can find the right thing to delete, then I can hop back online. So this happened a couple days ago. Unfortunately, I have not received my external hard drive that I'm moving a bunch of stuff onto yet. So this may be a perpetual thing for the next day or so. And I'm really sorry, guys, because this is kind of a fun thing that we're diving into, and I just want to make sure that I've got everything saved that I need to before I mess it up. So I don't have really good filler commentary right now, so I apologize. Give me just 30 more seconds here and I think I can find this. Okay, cool. Just wanted to make sure that I have something saved where I know it's preserved. Because if I deleted it, that would not be fun if it were something I still need. All right, so we're gonna try again really quickly. I'm just going to turn off and on this equipment, and hopefully you will be able to see my screen. If you've been able to see my screen, then good. All right, sorry about that. So I just couldn't tell that you could see my screen. So if you can, all the better, and I apologize for the little interruption there. So, all right, back to it. Let's check out the membership fees. Now, if I were to join as a pro, I'm gonna go ahead and open that. It might make me go through all of these questions. Well, that's fine. Let's just kind of read through this together because it's pretty small. But I think you can see this, so I'm going to continue going. My screen stopped again, so let's... but I think you can still see this. Just put in the comments if you're unable to, and then I will figure out a solution. So in any case, over 1.5 million opportunities on Angie last month. So if we look here really quickly, I'm going to open SimilarWeb, and I'm going to move my... we're just going to go back to the home page, and I do need to move my face. There we go. So I'm going to open SimilarWeb, which is just a little like Chrome extension, which for large sites estimates the traffic. And this says in October it was 5.5 million. I think you can see this, and if you can't, let me know. In November it was 5.1 million, and in December it was 5.1 million. Yeah, I'm gonna real quick stop and start the stream. You can stay on because I'll be able to rejoin. My equipment's still giving me a mess. 1 second, I'll be back in 5 seconds. Okay. All right, so I think let me do one more thing. I think you should be able to see my screen properly now. Is everyone able to see Angie.com? All right, so let's go ahead and keep going with it. I'm going to try it one more time. I don't know why my screen's not really showing on here. Sorry guys, I've got a little monitor where I can supposedly see what I'm streaming, but I'm not seeing the website that I'm sharing. I'm just seeing the notes, which is making it hard for me to show you the interesting things. But let's go ahead and connect to... I'm going to try one more time. This is really frustrating. Sorry, everyone. All right. We're going to keep going with the notes. You may not be able to see everything. We got through the main, I guess, the main parts of it, so I'm just going to talk for the rest. But so the membership fees, that's another opportunity where even though you've got the pros who can get leads and everything, they also would need to pay to be on it. So if I click through, and I'm just doing this here, I know you can't see it at the moment, but if I click through, it'll try to get me to sign up based on my location and what I'm doing in terms of like the service I provide. So if I've got, let's say, a painting business, then I can put that in, and it'll just give me estimates, or it'll give me some idea of how much it would cost me to be part of this. So, and be part of this, I mean, like put my information on Angie.com and then what kind of listing I want and everything. So for now, I'm just going to put in like my initials and everything. And I'm going to put in a phone number, hit next. So unfortunately, it'll probably text me, but then it wants to have me call a sales rep. So I'm not going to go that far on this. I was hoping it would show me at least some pricing there. But in any case, it will allow you to enter your business information, but they want to get you on the phone so they can upsell you on different things, which is an entirely valid model, something that a lot of us probably don't have the capacity to implement on our website, but it does represent the fact that it's successful for them, and they've tried it, dozens of things, I'm sure at this point. It's successful for them to get on the phone with the actual business owner. So the email sequences are good. Everything that you do to connect to a business is really good, but you should be following up if you have a business that seems interested on the phone to really have that discussion. And because you have their contact information that you're putting in the directory, you should also have a good phone number for them, especially if they confirm that. So really quickly, before I just highlight the key takeaways, I just want to give you some kind of like map to what Angie.com has been doing. So in 2026 already, I know it's a little toward late January, but like mid-late January at this point, they've pivoted a lot more toward efficiency and AI. So like everyone else. The bad news is they cut 12% of their workforce, so 350 jobs to do that. So that's going to save them $70 to $80 million per year through AI automation. And what they're going to be doing is automating a lot of the stuff that you wouldn't need to worry about, such as contractor license verification, customer support. But that customer support aspect is, again, another argument for you building and selling AI agents to local businesses, industry businesses, if you're interested in focusing on a specific industry, because both with that phone for like speed to lead that I mentioned, because your AI agents can actually answer the phone and they can be voice AI agents. I do have a demo of how that would work. I do have a demo for an AI voice agent on the website. I don't have one where it's actually connected to a phone number, but you could do that. And then you can also highlight the opportunities in customer support for using an AI agent. And you don't need to have like 10 different AI agents on the website. That could all come from one individual AI agent. So there's a lot of really, really cool opportunities for you if you are running a directory site and an agency on the back end of that basically you're seeing Angie pivoting in the same direction at the same time. They just have different mechanisms to do it. So again, like their speed to lead is immediately sending the contact information. And then, like I said, I get text messages and phone calls, within minutes, because the contractors know that the first one who reaches out, or might be the first one who gets the business, or the first two or three certainly are the ones with the opportunities. So you definitely want to highlight that and consider that in terms of how you're actually going to make the most money from your directory site. If you hit that 1 billion plus per year mark, let me know. If you hit even 1 million per year, let me know. Directories can certainly do that, but that's really impressive. That takes work and dedication. So key takeaways for you: focus on the trust. So in niches, especially where failure is expensive, so like law, home services, as we mentioned, health, people want to know that the data is verified. And so you can also incentivize the businesses that you're working with to provide you the kind of information that can highlight that the business is verified or has the whatever licensing. And you want to do what you can to monetize the transaction. So just, like I said, just having the directory with the listings for that specific business, that's really good. But then offering them an opportunity to use AI to speed up their response time, their speed to lead, or to solve customer problems. But in this case, specifically to speed up that response time and help them qualify leads or contact leads or respond to leads and make sure that they're on that opportunity, that's going to be key for them. And that's going to be a great selling point, because they understand the significance already. It's just you've got a new mechanism to do that. Um, and then quality is greater than volume. So, you can restrict who you put on your directory however you want to do it. If you want to focus on businesses that have good reviews and that have or don't have like an AI agent or don't have a good website, whatever it is that you want to sell in particular to them, then you're not only focusing on the quality businesses, but you're also by just kind of that focused method of adding businesses, you're ensuring that you have good leads for yourself. So you can prioritize those two things together. And you can also you can add different categories at different times, or, like add three businesses in every category, but then really start filling in your home services and then start sending your email sequences out to them first. And just kind of go through. So you can do this strategically without sending out a burst of emails to restaurants, to home services, to auto shops, and maybe they have completely different responses to different types of messages, but you won't really understand that because you haven't grouped them separately. And then the last thing is evolve or die, which is a little strong, but I think in our kind of age, we like to put things in very strong terms. But Angie moved from like a printed newsletter to a web portal, and now to an AI powered independent marketplace where they're no longer even under a parent company. So in your journey, you're going to find that you're just going to learn a lot of lessons along the way. You're going to learn that maybe you really click with certain businesses, and it could be in certain industries. It could be, from just referrals or like your work experience, your experience with different industries, or it could just be you really mesh with roofing contractors and landscapers, but you don't really mesh with dentists and lawyers. Lean into that. You can still have all of those other businesses on your site and you can still do your outreach. But if you find that you're encountering a lot more of a specific business owner who you work really well with and who responds really well to your messaging and to your offer, go with it. All right, that is everything. Appreciate you sticking around. Have a good one.